Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Walk the Block, where you're navigating digital finance all together. Big show for you here tonight. We have an update on the Ethereum Foundation breakdown from last week. We have some news about a new nonprofit organization that is being launched as a part of the restructuring going on over there. Additionally, we have possibly one of the larger breaking news stories that we've seen in a hot minute: the launch of Open Standard, aka the new US stablecoin called OUSD. We're going to talk about that one and who's behind it, because that's probably going to surprise you. And then after that, we do have a bit of a discussion on AI and exactly how is it being integrated and what are the pros and cons and everything in between. That is what we got for you tonight on the show. I'm your host, Zenith, and I'm joined by my good and excellent co-host and buddy, Tracker. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Your voice is coming a little deeper. It's kind of funny hearing it, though. But you're clear. But you're clear. It's fine. We had a
Okay,
little bit of technical difficulties for this guy, so bear with us. But we'll be able to at least get you the information. No worries there on that. Yeah, excited to get into stuff. A lot of things have changed. I know we're going to talk about the new USDO stablecoin coming out. I think is interesting. We know now what Ethereum, some of the new things they're starting to plan to come out on the talks, why they cut 20% staff, and then some of the new directions Ethereum's doing. So we have a little bit of that to come out on, and then of course Rob is going to dive into the charts and see what's going on. I know there's definitely a battle at these lines right now, that's for sure. So yeah, a lot to talk about here. Lots to talk about is basically the best way to put all this. So it's going to be really interesting to dive into it.
very, very true. Tell you what, with that being said, let's just crack on. All right, up first, coming to us from CoinDesk. Ethereum gets a new nonprofit focused on institutional adoption. All right, what do we got? A new independent nonprofit, Ethereum Institutional, has launched with the goal of accelerating institutional adoption of Ethereum, its layer 2 networks, and the broader ecosystem. The organization is led by David Walsh, Marius Smith, and Matthew Dawson. Walsh previously led the Ethereum Foundation's enterprise efforts, while the organization said its leadership brings experience spanning institutional engagement, capital markets, and Ethereum ecosystem development. It said its mission is to provide institutions with a neutral, independent point of contact as they evaluate Ethereum for tokenization, stablecoins, and other on-chain financial infrastructure. In the announcement, the institution said it needs a quote, credible, independent front door to the Ethereum ecosystem. While Ethereum's neutrality is one of its defining strengths, the group argued that neutrality has often led enterprises with clear organization to engage as long as they make long-term infrastructure decisions. The launch comes as the Ethereum Foundation continues to narrow its role to stewarding the core protocol, with ecosystem participants increasingly spinning up independent organizations focused on specific areas such as business development, institutional outreach, and developer support. The shift follows broader changes at the foundation, including leadership restructuring and long-standing community calls for greater transparency. So, top line, what we're getting here is this is a bit of an expansion of the article that we covered last week. Last week, we talked about how the Ethereum Foundation laid off 20% of its staff and cut the operating budget by about 40% for the year and restructured into their 5 layers, as they called them. This is, or it appears at least, to be an outgrowth of that. So these are people from the Ethereum Foundation that are launching a new nonprofit organization that is specifically focused on targeting institutions to kind of cater to them and bring them into the ecosystem. At a glance, did I miss anything?
No, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, it's nice to see them actually starting to do something. The fact that now they're creating, you want to almost like an intake process to the Ethereum Foundation is how I'm looking at it, where it's streamlined. They can start those conversations. They know everybody where to work with, and start the development on the ecosystem. And I feel like this is them. Obviously, we talked about Ethereum needed to wake up and start doing some stuff, and now they cut 20% of the staff. I feel like they trimmed the fat, more or less, is how I'm looking at it. They are now they're trying to actually, make a push, finally wake up and get some action moving, because you've got Solana knocking on their door. You got others knocking the door, Binance, and they better wake up. Just because you got the lion's share doesn't mean you're going to keep it this way. So hopefully they're getting their act in order. And they're going to start moving in the right direction. Same thing with the PR and marketing as well. I know we're going to talk about other threats coming, but this is a good thing. I still think Solana is going to be, at least for the United States, is going to be the biggest threat to Ethereum. And everybody else. When it comes to real world assets and things like that, that's the one area that can actually grow. And I know we're going to talk about that later, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But it's just refreshing to see some action finally moving on Ethereum.
Definitely. And I guess as a bit of a recap from the discussion last week about the Ethereum Foundation and specifically the restructuring and cutting in the budget. It seems that layoffs are never a good announcement, in my personal opinion, and especially when you're reducing your operating budget. We also got just kind of like the base level of what they're going to be trying to restructure into. This is the expansion of that. So, one of the critiques that I found of the Ethereum Foundation is that they've been trying to remain very neutral on the blockchain, and there's pros and cons to that. Pros, very DeFi oriented, very open to like pretty much anyone building on it, good or bad. Cons is if you're trying to go for institutional adoption, you kind of got to be able to give a little wiggle room to folks to give them that incentive to come on chain. As far as seeing the split between the actual Ethereum Foundation, who's going to be focusing on like core operating procedure of the actual blockchain, and now we're getting some spin-offs. This is the first, the major one, anyways. This new nonprofit that's focused on institutional adoption. It's like, okay, I think I'm starting to see their overall strategic picture kind of come into play a little more clearly now. Because what we're looking at is that, okay, they're really going after the institutional stuff. They just spun up an entire nonprofit focused on that specifically. And hear me out. I understand it because the last like 4 years, this entire last cycle, it was the ETF cycle. We had the Bitcoin ETF launch back in 2023. And then we also had the Ethereum ETF launch in later summer that year. And then we also saw more ETFs for like Solana, XRP, and a handful of other tokens come at the very tail end of 2024, I want to say. So institutions and TradFi has definitely been getting in on blockchain at a larger level. I think that what this is going to allow them to do is actually kind of tailor some things for that big money that they're chasing. Granted, everything always has trade-offs. So by bringing TradFi in here, we've definitely muddied the waters to say the least. But we're also increasing market cap and overall consumer adoption by a heavy degree, in my personal opinion, while we're doing this. So with that being said, I don't know if it's entirely like the change that they need. It's going to take a lot more than just setting up the organizations. It's going to take some footwork behind it to see it happen. I think that this is a good step one if you're going for that TradFi adoption play, but at the same time, it only matters once you start getting people to really sign on and start launching these projects on Ethereum. And like you alluded to, the open standard stablecoin. Fun fact, that one's not coming to Ethereum actually. So it seems that the race is afoot, and the race has probably been going on a bit longer than people have really been realizing. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Institutions. I know you're a big fan of them, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I am. I mean, if Ethereum has got to get more aggressive is basically how we're looking at this. If they don't,
I
they're going
agree.
to start getting nibbled away. I mean, do you want to become MySpace to Facebook? Do you want to become AOL and just get, you know what I mean? Like these are early people to the party that had a chance to really, take on everybody, and they fumbled the bags and they weren't innovative enough and not moving quick enough while everybody else just started moving quickly. Now you have a lot of competitors. Wake up or you're going to lose it. It's that simple. So no, they need to start doing something. So I'm just glad they finally started making some traction personally.
It's true. What do you think about the whole neutrality idea of like having a team developed that's really focused on operations and then having a team that can now split off and try to like cater to folks?
Well, no, you have to. No, you that's how real companies work. I mean, this is how
some would argue it's called closing the deal.
Oh yeah, but I mean, here's how I look at it. Even if you're in a small tech company, 100 people, we'll say a company of 100 people, that's a small tech company or a mid-sized company. Even something like that, you're going to have teams dedicated to certain things. That's typically how it works. You don't have, and that's the other thing. They probably, like you said it last week, they probably already have had this somewhat in place, but they haven't really defined it in being very vocal about how they're structuring the foundation. It's been more like a black box. Okay, the way we always felt the foundation was, is it just like a freaking .com setup company where a bunch of young kids here just running around playing games? I mean, is it heaven forbid, is it set up like FTX, where it was just basically, gambling on the sides. Like, we don't know how structured it is, and it never felt like it was very mature, or the perception was it wasn't very mature as a potential network that's going to house most of the real world assets. I mean, that's a huge undertaking to build a platform on top of how all these things are going to be stable. That's insane. Now, so yeah, you're going to have them broken up like that. So yes, I do think that's definitely the way you have to run a company, because you have your specialists that focus on certain things. And that's how they broke it down into those 5 sections. The one area that I think they've been lacking is definitely in the PR world, in the marketing and all that. There's nothing. There's never been anything. They'll have releases when they come out with their updates of what that's going to change and all. But see, once again, it always felt like you had engineers and developers being the front face of the company. I'm sorry, engineers and developers should not be the foreface of your company. That's not their best suit. Yes, can some of them do this? Yeah, absolutely. There's geniuses that can do both, that can run the company technically and been a developer. But even then, they stop doing that role, and they're more focused on whatever it is, PR or marketing or. You don't have them always doing this, so they need to get more clean and structured on this end. So I think Ethereum is definitely moving. That bottom line is the optics just look better. That's it. The perception, the optics look much more cleaner. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, you make a really good point about, like, look, you can have really great scientists and engineers build fantastic products, but at the same time, they might not be able to market them. It does take a very special individual to really bridge that gap and do both. And hopefully, they can at least find somebody to be a great spokesperson over in the new nonprofit, the Ethereum institution, or institutional, if you will, to really cater to these people. Because I think that looking back, Vitalik has obviously been the face of Ethereum for as long as it's been around. He has a presence about himself and the way that he speaks and what he says that is his role is. He definitely falls into that engineer type. And as a result of that, I think that Ethereum for a long time has really stayed in like emerging technologies category as opposed to being emerging markets category. And you got to make the jump from one to the other at some point, because the technology has to be able to support the market. It's shown that it has, which is the crazy part about this. It's like, look, the money is there. Things are operating. It's been working, but it just hasn't captured that market share like Bitcoin has. And Bitcoin has nobody. Like, it has the shadowy figure of Satoshi and all the people making conspiracy theories about it's like the greatest CIA psyop of all time and stuff like that. So if the Ethereum institutional can actually get some big folks online and get it going to a size that's going to grow it to a good margin, because at this point Ethereum still is head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. But honestly, if you're talking about bringing in real institutional money, I'm looking at seeing something that's pretty much at minimum like a 2x in size. I think that's going to be the kind of growth that will signify that yes, this initiative, this project has been successful.
Here's how I've always looked at it. Great companies that have great engineers and development and products don't necessarily market themselves properly. They
Yeah, a lot of
don't know how
times
to
they
do
get bought out.
well, that's just, well, that too, but that's not their niche.
Yeah.
And likewise, I've seen companies that are incredible marketing and can really handle PR real well and really, cheerlead for themselves great when the product's trash. So that's typically how it goes. To have a great company, you need to have experts in their fields, and you need to properly have it. They're putting those pieces, at least, like I said, they may have already had this in place, but they've never really explained and had things for, more open. It's always been in a silo. It feels like how the entire Ethereum Foundation's been. So now they're opening up. That's great. I'd like to see the next steps. What do you do? Once again, I really want to see a roadmap on the Ethereum Foundation. What are you guys expecting? Because what everyone's waiting for is, where are the settlement payments going to occur? That's what the real world assets are all about. Tokenization. And then if your network is the big one, it's going to get its money through transactions and settlement payments. That's the whole point of all this. Who can take that? And right now there's a big investigation and research to find out who's going to be that network right now. Yes, Ethereum by far is the big one. And and then, Tom Lee said something that was really interesting about why he picked Ethereum over all the other ones. And like, what about not Solana? Solana's fast and it's scale, all these other perks that you would love about a network. But the thing he came back to it was scalability and security or reliability as well. Solana has gone down in the past many times. Ethereum has not. The other thing it's done is it can handle the massive throughput. Even though Solana is faster, the institutions are going to take reliability and security. So, I'm sorry, security is number one, then reliability, then speed. Solana's got the speed, but they don't have the reliability, and they're not necessarily as secure as Ethereum. That's the argument. Now, people will debate that, sure, all day long, but as a for reliability, Ethereum's been up. Solana has crashed and went down quite a few times. Now, they'll say they've stabilized. Okay, maybe so. But that's the knock on them. That's why
Yeah,
Ethereum has the notch. It's the security, it's reliable and it's secure.
that's true. From just like the baseline standpoint, I think you're entirely correct, which is that the security and stability matters a whole lot more than the actual interface. But at the same time, I think that Ethereum has a little bit suffered from feeling like old internet technology compared to Solana. Because on Solana, when you make transaction swaps, whatever you're doing, it's dang near instantaneous. Like it happens within a second. Ethereum, I want to say blocks are published every 6 seconds, and then also you get final resolution on a swap or a multi swap or something like that. It can take upwards of a minute. So it almost feels like dial up versus high speed when you're comparing the speeds. And from a user standpoint, I can see how people might feel a certain way about that, and that's going to possibly sway their decision making. But when it comes to like serious players and also serious infrastructure, stability and security, number one and two, I'm right there with you.
I'm gonna put it right here. The other thing is, if you Solana's faster, okay, that's great. All of them are much faster than the Swift network. So, I mean, and for those who are on the Swift network, that is the actual old dated network that banking transactions are held on, that are very dated and very, very slow. Like almost every network is much faster than any of that by a lot. So that's here nor there. So it's kind of like comparing. I got something stable and I have it also secure. And at the same time, this goes 100 miles an hour. Well, they got this other one go 150 miles an hour. Do you really need that extra 50 miles an hour? I don't know if those thousandths of a millisecond are going to matter. Now, I know we're going to have an article maybe later on. We're going to talk about AI and interoperability. And of course, that does come into play. So there are things that eventually will. But of course, Ethereum Foundation or Ethereum, they are always working on throughput and increasing bandwidth and basically just the velocity of transactions as well. So that's always going to be an ongoing task for them.
Yeah, I personally, my take on it is that there is a degree of human perceptibility that is the upper limit for how fast your stuff needs to be. It's kind of like if you've ever been playing video games or even streaming and you need your camera to come through clearly. It's like there is an upper limit about like how much ping you can have from the server before you can actually start to feel the lag. And even then, we're still talking about like some very high speed applications, and we're talking like a tenth of a second. So I know it sounds crazy, but when we're dealing with digital stuff at the speed of light, effectively, that is an eternity compared to physical movement and stuff. So look, I think there will be very severely diminishing returns at a certain point. And honestly, personally, I'm pretty happy with Ethereum as it is. Like the speed, sure, could be faster, but at the same time, there's all the other stuff that give you the warm and fuzzies, just the security and stability. That's where it
I
is.
got one for you. We don't have $1,600 Ethereum transaction fees that were happening
Hey,
back in 2021.
that
Those
feels worse than all of it.
those were comical. Like it's pretty sad when you have a trade on or a position and you're looking to take profits, and now you're sitting here like, oh my God, this is gonna literally wipe out all my profits on this one position if I end up dumping it now because the transaction fees were so high. Like I remember waiting until it sucked, but I always remember trying to hold on and make all of my transactions like on Sunday, US Eastern time between the hours of like 6 and 8 a.m. That seemed to be the cheapest time ever on the Ethereum network. It was like you had to look for those little pockets of windows. It was very frustrating. And even then, at those low times, you're still dropping $25, $30 transaction fees. It was that. So yeah, hopefully that we won't have to relive those.
Yeah, using your money costs money. Go figure. Wild stuff. Alrighty, tell you what, let's transition to what I think is probably the bigger story, and I believe you would agree with me on this one. So, a bit of a news announcement here. We have a new website. It's called joinopenstandard.com. And immediately I'm staring at a very fancy website saying OpenUSD, a shared stablecoin for global financial activity. The first stablecoin designed as open infrastructure. It gives businesses the economics, governance, and reliability they need to move money. Huh.
Oh, I got to
Okay.
understand what is their definition as for open?
Yeah, that's a hell of a question right there. We can get into that. I did a little digging on this one as well. All right, tell you what, let's read the announcement here.
Well, before we dive into it, I do want to
Oh,
give a little
yeah.
background here. So here's why this one was such a big news event that took place. So everyone's been looking at Circle, who that's the company who owns USD, right? USD has been kind of the main stable coin, and I'd say it's more US focused, while it always seems like Tether is the global or international stable coin that people tend to use. At least that's always been the perception. But Tether and Circle both have been. Keep in mind, we talked about last week. They can shut off those. They have keys that they can shut it off. We went over how much money has been literally taken out, where people will have these coins in your wallet, and I'm not going to say justify and saying it should or shouldn't be, whatever, but those kill switches are there and they can deactivate those funds there, making those coins worthless, or you can't even trade them. They freeze. They're basically dead money. And I know, well, who was it for Tron, the CEO of Tron? He's been basically targeted.
Sun.
Justin Sun has been like the number one, target for whatever reason. He has got a target on him, and they have shut on tons of money on him. But anyhow, Tether has shut down a lot. USD has shut down quite a bit, but nothing compared to what Tether has. Tether has done massive amounts of shutdowns on people on locking out their coins. Now, so Tether's them. You also have Circle, who takes care of USD. When this announcement came out, Circle tanked. When I say tanked, because as far as stock to tank 17%, I think it jumped 17% in the day or something like that. It was pretty significant. Yeah, there's a drop right there. That's a pretty big drop for a stock, and it came on the news of this. Now, can Circle still be? If you want to own the stock, here's the thing. We're going to talk about the news article, and I'll bring up some things as we go through the news article to kind of reference back to this. But this is a knee-jerk reaction, me personally, but it is a huge threat because it is this is what you're going to go over right now is a direct competitor to Circle, a direct competitor to UST. And when we hear in the article, the people behind this and the companies behind it, you'll see why it has a lot of legs. All right. Just wanted to give a little backdrop on what's going on before we dove into it.
Fair enough. Alrighty, back to Open Standard. Let's read your announcement. June 30th, the day that Circle dropped 17%. Today, we're announcing OpenUSD, a new stablecoin for global money movement. Stablecoins are being rapidly adopted for their speed, cost, and programmability, with transaction volume approaching that of the ACH network. At the same time, businesses still face significant hurdles: fees to mint and redeem most stablecoins, and prohibitively expensive at larger volumes. Companies aren't always able to benefit from these revenues earned on the underlying reserves, and developers have little recourse if the roadmaps of third-party issuers do not meet their needs. OpenUSD includes 3 key design principles. Number 1, build for scale. Businesses can mint and redeem OUSD at no cost with no artificial limits on volume. Number 2, earn by default. Partners receive all of the earnings from OpenUSD's reserves, less a small management fee to cover the operational costs. Govern collaboratively. OpenUSD will be operated by Open Standard, an independent company with a board made up of OpenUSD's partners, ensuring decisions are made for the collective interest, not a single entity. We have the founding CEO, Zach Abrams. Quote, existing stablecoins have great strengths, but to use them at scale, businesses need something that's open, low cost, high throughput, broadly accessible, and aligned to their interests. We're thrilled to bring together over 140 businesses to launch OpenUSD. It's a stablecoin built for the internet economy, designed by businesses growing it. Businesses across the industry have signed up to use this, including Visa, Stripe, MasterCard, American Express,
It's
Discover,
it's everybody.
BlackRock,
BNY. I mean, you got them on there.
Google's in
everybody.
here too.
These are all the major banks in here, man. Yeah, Google, IBM,
Who's this? Who's this?
DoorDash. Look at that. You got DoorDash. You have Wix. Wix is that's an internet company that does stuff.
We
You have
use those guys.
Coinbase. Oh, you got Solana. You got Solana in here. You got Base. You got Sui, Ripple,
Ripple's in there too.
Crypto.com. Basically, the who's who of banking, technology, central exchanges, and all the big money-making institutions. A lot of them, not all of them, but some of the big ones.
This feels like everybody.
Yeah. Now you got to translate this to, okay, well, does it have legs? Okay, how many lobbyists do you think these institutions have that they have pushing Congress and senators to make sure things go in their favor? Come on.
Yeah. So
this has a lot of legs.
Taking a little look back, how is this possible? Well, it's possible because we passed the Genius Act back last summer of 2024. That was the stablecoin bill. We are still waiting on the Clarity Act, which is the overall market structure bill for crypto. But stablecoins, those guys, they got the green light over a year ago at this point. So here's what they did in the last year. They rounded everybody together and they said, new stablecoin, let's do it.
And just for those who don't, what is ACH network? Well, the ACH network, that is the automated clearinghouse. That's basically the U.S. electronic funds transferring system. They handle all settlements between banks and financial institutions. So, yeah, tons of money being done there. They're saying stable coins are approaching that kind of volume already. And we've already pointed out that stable coins have a which is the thing that's crazy to me. Stable coins are reaching those kind of levels. That means that those are almost surpassing big companies like Visa, MasterCard, and those companies which handle the ACH network as well. And yet here's crypto. It's only $2 trillion network, a $2 trillion market cap. Like, what? Something's not adding up. That's what we keep trying to tell you week in and week out. Like, this is massive. You're seeing every week there, it seems like something, but this is huge. This is significant because of just the magnitude of people behind this one. Now I can say this, that one of the big narratives why this is getting pushed is they believed that the Clarity Act was not going to get passed. And right now it's not. You can almost say the Clarity Act it plunged as far as possibility of getting passed this year. It's down to like 24%, whatever it is now. So
isn't that bad?
Oh, it plunged. It might be 30 something. You bring it up on the charts we always show. What's it at now?
39.
39. Sorry.
But
all right,
hear
correct.
me out.
But
The
hell of a plunge.
trajectory right there. That's not a good trajectory. I'm just saying.
No, 39% means it's basically everyone's written it off. Clarity Act's not going to get passed this year. It's basically what it's translating to. It's not getting passed. And now the fact that you have this coming out because they believed that the Clarity Act was not going to get passed. This is now going to allow them to capitalize yield on these stable coins. And that's another big thing that they're trying to go after is not just the transaction fees that they're going to try to capture, but the yield that they're going to get out of the stable coins. So yeah, this is a huge direct competition to USD and UST and also BNB as well, which is the Binance stablecoin, and of course DAI, which is arguably a lot of people in the crypto world like DAI because if
you're on the nerdy side of things, you'll like DAI.
Yeah, DAI.
It is a algorithmically based and backed stablecoin.
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, I know it sounds crazy to say that, like, because people bet on the Clarity Act not happening, they made this so they could get the stablecoin yield while it's still allowable. It's like that is the logical decision based on the probability that the thing that would block it is not getting passed. And look, we covered it last week as well. The anti-CBDC bill, which got wrapped up into the Housing Affordability Act. It got passed by the House and the Senate, sitting at the desk of the president, not getting signed until something else does. Yeah, that could be an indicator that, well, maybe now's the time to strike, because they're kind of betting on the fact that, like, primaries are already in swing for the midterm election. Midterm election is going to be on us sooner than you think. And then after the midterms, until the new Congress gets in there, it's going to be kind of nothing going on as well. So I know it sounds crazy to say, like, we could be looking at, like, not a whole lot of action from legislature for the next 6-7 months effectively. And if that's 6, 7 months of, I don't know, maybe getting people hooked on stablecoin yield, that doesn't sound too terrible.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, the businesses are put into place to make money.
Yeah.
Like it or hate it, that's what businesses are their objective is. And they're going to go after the stablecoin yield. That's just it. And this is why they're going after it. And to have this many people behind it, it's going to happen. Now, I don't know if the article talked about it. When did they say it was going to launch? I could have sworn they said something like it wasn't going to launch for 6 months, I think. So there is some time.
I didn't see.
I've heard 6 months thrown around. I haven't really seen it, written down anywhere though.
I didn't see anything on the official website, but based on the research that I did, that's what I got as well.
Said expected later in 2026. No exact date has yet been, but later this year. So at worst, towards the end of the year, it could be in Q4, worst case scenario. So that's what we're saying. Now, here's the other thing. It's going to start on the native network, which is going to be Solana. Why Solana? Well, Solana, like we said, that's the US deemed. Solana is a US based company. So they have full control of this company. Why? Because it's in the United States and it's on the network. And if you look at it, it's the same blueprint or method of operation that technology companies and the US government with regulation partner up with, because then they have no impediments or roadblocks. They can do as they see fit, just like the adoption of Google, Facebook, and all Amazon, you name it. All of them get grease tracks from the government to help them build into what they have to, because it's what happens. Now they have Solana. Solana is now going to be, that's why I kept saying Solana is deemed as the United States crypto network. That's the best way I can put it. Like it or hate it, it is. But everybody who's DeFi or really, true crypto is going to be probably Ethereum because of smart contracts. United States, if they're going to build this and do it, they're going to want control in place. It's that's the nature of the beast, and you can hate it or what, but that's the reason why they're picking on Solana. Now they're staying on. Now once it goes on Solana, then it'll show up on Stellar, Base, and Polygon, is what they're talking about coming out. So it's going to be multiple chains, which makes complete sense. I mean, it's not like any other stable coin. It shows up on all the other networks, and it'll probably show up on the Ethereum network as well. But why not primarily on the Ethereum network? Well, it kind of violates the whole open standard debate, right? They want it on multi-chain stable coins for scalability, low cost, and the broader institution and business adoptions that they keep spieling off to everybody. That's basically what it's coming down to. So why Solana? That's all it is. It's Solana. They can, if they're going to get this thing done, everything's inside the United States. They don't have to worry about any international, problems or any issues like that. Keeping in mind, Binance is getting kicked out of the EU, right? They're shutting Binance down. Binance is getting shut down in the EU. They're shutting it down. And keep in mind, EU is launching their own CBDC. So it's kind of like the EU has kind of gone off and done their own thing. So it doesn't make sense for the United States to partner with anybody in Europe because of all of the other changes in regulation that they're doing. And you're not going to go out there with China. You're not going to go out there with any of the Asian markets because it's once again, it's just easier if you keep it in house for these networks and these organizations. So it makes total sense why they pick Solana. Whether you agree or think it's the best network or not, it's irrelevant. It's the fact that it's US based.
That's true. And honestly, that's kind of why this story is just like the perfect dovetail to our continuation of the Ethereum Foundation story from last week. Because the analysis from last week was, unless something big happens, they're probably going to remain the number 2 in the space. This could be that exact thing, and it could have come a lot quicker than either of us expected.
Well, I think this is why the Ethereum Foundation has already been making the moves and trying to get ahead of this before this announcement came out. They already knew this was coming out. They already know. They're not dumb. They've got people on the ground. They knew this stuff was coming. I mean, You can't keep a secret like this very long. It probably leaked out. They were aware of it. They're trying to now get in front of it and try to get ahead of it. But to me, so here's what I would say. If this makes Solana another attractive, I don't want to say a heavy investment, but I would definitely have it in your portfolio. That's my personal opinion. I mean, obviously not financial advice, but just because we know Solana is out there. We know that exactly. We have Solana out there. We have Binance out there. We have XRP. You have threats out there if you're trying to bet on real world adoption and networking. And that ultimately comes down to what is going to be the new settlement payment system, which network's going to do it, because if whoever gets the most lion's shares of that is going to be worth a lot, because of not just the amount of value of whatever the value of the assets that are tokenized on the network, but also on the settlements, the transaction fees. That's what makes it valuable. That it's Metcalfe's law, basically, because you're going to have more activity, more things there. It becomes more valuable. It's a community. That's just how it is. This is why real estate in New York is more expensive than real estate than Des Moines, Iowa. I mean, it's a network effect. It's supply and demand. You have more people living in New York than you do in Des Moines. That's why it's more expensive. It's the same concept to that, just to dumb it down for everybody. Now, Ethereum still holds right now currently 16. Well, they are right around 14.5 billion. Binance has coming up on 4 billion. Stellar's coming at 2.2 and Solana's coming at 2. And then at that point, it's kind of a big drop. Everything else is below a billion as far as real world assets on that. But that's kind of the big thing that you got to start looking at. Are those numbers going to start creeping up? Possibly, maybe. Binance seems to be kind of creeping up, though. Binance, I think, is going to take more of the international side of the house. Solana would definitely take more of the United States, and Ethereum is still the big one on the block, which is more stable. And so I don't know. It's ultimately, we don't know what's going to come. So you need, especially from an investment standpoint, you want to hedge some of your bets. I'm still going to be extremely heavy Ethereum, because I still think that's the one that I'm going to stay in. That's the reason. Ethereum, I think, has been suppressed so long. Solana had its pump when Bitcoin was pumping, so it can run. So Ethereum, to me, is being suppressed, and it's definitely being suppressed, and they're doing it through the ETFs. It's point blank. Others have stated this in the institute and in the markets. They have proof of it. It's exactly what's happening, and you're seeing it, man. They're doing it through the derivatives market, and how you can basically put infinite amount of money, putting puts and bets against it to suppress it. That is clearly what's been happening. They've been doing it for decades in the gold market and silver market. So this is just part of the game. It's disgusting, but it happens. So I would definitely have them, Solana, in your bag. Probably have a little bit of Binance when it hurt either, but heavier Ethereum, and of course Bitcoin, just because it's the big man on the block until deemed otherwise. But I would definitely be heavy. Me personally, I'd be heavier Ethereum than I would Bitcoin right now, just because I still think Bitcoin has that bugaboo with Michael Saylor. The other thing is here, listen, they're not going to get liquidated. They're not going to get shut down. It's not going to make MicroStrategy is going to go under. It's just that it's a narrative that's going to keep hanging around. The Bitcoin price would have to be suppressed at extremely low prices, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 Bitcoin for a long period of time, before they would be forced to have to start to, cause massive damage. Yes, settlement would be really bad and all, but they're still buying. Yes, they're selling some Bitcoin, and they're moving some things around. Sure. I'm not really looking at Bitcoin. I'm looking at more Ethereum, because I'm looking at more real world assets, smart contracts. Personally, is what I'm looking at. But that's how you would want to play this. You definitely want to have some Solana exposure just because of this. And the other thing is, it's interesting because it's funny, because now this comes out, and all the influencers over the last 2 weeks or so have started to start talking about Solana. Like, all of them are talking about, like, you need to buy Solana. Buying Solana again seems to be back in favor again. And I'm gonna tell you right now, like I said, we don't make a dime here when it comes to broadcasting on the networks. We don't take any payments for anybody. We don't get anything like that at all whatsoever. We speak openly how we feel. A lot. And I'll say allegedly, but allegedly, a lot of influencers who are your big ones, your big crypto influencers. There's not a lot of them, but your big ones, they all get paid. They all get shielded. They get paid through central exchanges, coins launching. They do. And it's interesting how they all seem to be spinning back to Solana. Well, it's very easy to control the narratives in the crypto markets, because the market A is so small. There's not that many influencers. So if you control a lot of your major influencers, you can control the narratives that are being spun out there. So I just find it interesting. I'm not saying that it's happening. It just feels like that to me. It's more of a thought. You need to be paying attention. If everyone's saying, hey, you need to be buying Solana, it's interesting. It's almost like they're trying to ramp up or something. And now this comes out. It's going to be on the Solana network first. You got that going on, and it's US based. I just find it interesting that's coming out at the same time. But it's something to watch.
Yeah, that's very true. And by the way, just small side note that I had on this one. Solana, I believe it launched back in 2020. rode the 2021 cycle, had a really good performance, going all the way from pretty much like a buck 50 all the way up to $250. That's ridiculous performance. And then if we look at the last cycle, had a low around $8, reasonably you could accumulate it for about 20. And then this is that Bitcoin ETF pump right here, got all the way up to 212, 215. We had our high in January 2025 after the election pump of right around 300. And then, just kind of similar to Bitcoin price, down sideways, had the good old tariff bubble there. But also the previous high was 260 and then getting only up to 291. I'm not saying it was suppressed like Ethereum was. The X's are
Absolutely not.
definitely there compared to Ethereum. But as
Mhm.
far as just like really zooming out and looking at the overall structure, for a second cycle, this thing really didn't perform as well as I think people were hoping it would be. I feel like
Keep it in
even
mind,
talking
though.
about go
Keep
for it.
this in mind on the second pump after we got out of the bear market. So coming out of that Q4 2022, that was the bottom of the bear market for all those out there. The new cycle kicked in. Solana started moving with Bitcoin immediately. It was trading with Bitcoin and actually outperforming Bitcoin for a little while. And so it had the backing. Everybody was gravitating toward Solana. Then the meme mania started kicking in heavily, and that's where all the gambling and degenerates started going on and started doing that.
Yeah.
And that insult to injuries, this is when the Trump administration, they came out and they created the Trump coin, had the Melania coin. You had all of these meme coins showing up on Solana. And the fact that, the big push was, oh, the president's going to get behind Solana because they're launching meme coins on there. Right? Makes perfect sense. But and then the rugs just kept happening. So you'd have these memes pump, and then it's all pump and dump schemes. That's all they were. And it was straight up gambling, but a lot of people lost a lot of money. So that left a lot of bad people taste in people's mouths. I don't know if people are going to buy back into the Solana network because of how bad they were treated with the scammings that were going on. And they're still going on. They're still going on.
That's a very fair criticism,
I mean,
honestly.
Arthur Hayes, man, that he's a shyster on his own, man. That guy's been going out there. Dude, he goes out there and he pumps stuff all the time. Then he rugs people. He's still doing it. He just put another one out there. So be really careful about these influencers that are pumping altcoins and stuff because they are rugging you. Arthur Hayes, man, he's done it many times. Man, people are circling the wagon around him, man. I'm just saying he's building a lot of enemies, and it's not good. It's not good. But
No,
he's
to
just
be
one of
fair though,
many, though.
yeah, this has been our very consistent critique of Solana for as long as we've been on the air, which is that maybe against their will, they have really been solidified as the gambling and meme coin network. And we've talked about it on various other shows, even across different platforms and stuff. People were like, "Oh, we should have meme coins on our blockchain," and it's like, I hear you. They can be good for like volume and transaction fees and stuff. But the fact was that no one got anywhere near close to Solana when it came to the meme coin trading because it was just that through the roof. And as a result, whether it was intentional or not, that's the stigma. That is what Solana has been attached to at this point, whether they like it or not. They're the meme coin thing.
Correct. Even though when we're looking at more of the big institutions and the mass adoptions going on the underlayer, but right now the perception is exactly what you just stated. And right now the crypto market is very dead. Like it's very hated. Except sorry. So the problem here is you have institutions out there that have a lot of stuff that's going on that is it's really bad. That's that problem. But the problem is the crypto markets are not being looked at by anybody in the mainstream because nobody really cares about it. What's happening right now though is these big moves by the institutions that's the stuff you should be paying attention to. But most of the people in crypto that are trying to do the gambling or trying to do the quick trades that are still around, they're looking at these meme coins, making those trades, and a lot of them aren't looking at Solana because of the rugs that are coming out. That's because it has bad taste in everyone's mouth. So the people that are still left in crypto, retail mainly in crypto, that are heavily into crypto like us are looking most of them are looking at where's the value, where's the possibility for the things that are going to pump. That's what they're looking for. That's how it's looking right now at this point.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Although at the same time, I think that like us and a lot of the other people that are still around and not doing the whole influencer show, we've kind of prepared for the reality that the rest of 2026 is probably going to be flat to down. And in times like this, sure, there can be a coin or two that pumps crazy. Looking at you, Monero and Zcash, well done, but you're cooling off now as well. And it's like the meme coin stuff and Solana in particular really does well when there is like a true altcoin season. And as we saw in this last cycle, didn't really kind of get one of those. You could argue that the Bitcoin ETF pump was one, the election pump was another. End of 20 or like August, September of 2025 was also a bit of a pump. But at the same time, it's like the X's that happened in the last cycle are nowhere near what people were predicting based on their past data, the models, the forecasting, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it's a maturing market. Maybe it's just a weird cycle. Can't really tell until we get all the data in, and we're almost there, but not yet. And you got to wait for the next one to see if it was a fluke or the new standard. Alrighty, tell you what, let's get to the thing that we've been teasing the entire show here. Talking about our favorite topic apparently, AI. So, coming to us from CoinDesk, the next phase of digital assets is agentic. Trust will decide who scales. All right, CoinDesk, what are we talking about here? The digital asset market is moving into a new phase of automation. For years, crypto infrastructure has been defined by smart contracts, real time settlement, and global liquidity. Now, a new layer is emerging: autonomous finance. Autonomous finance combines the real time settlement and global accessibility of crypto with the programmable execution introduced by smart contracts and the decision making capability of AI agents. Though still nascent, these agents are beginning to monitor markets, query systems, transact autonomously, and execute multi step workflows within parameters set by users. This transaction goes beyond automated trading systems that already exist. It points to a broader infrastructure shift in which AI agents can assist users, coordinate with systems, and act within predefined boundaries on a user's behalf. That is the promise behind autonomous finance, but also the risk. As AI agents move closer to execution, the industry's most important question becomes less about what these systems can do and more about what they can be trusted to do.
Yeah, when I heard Gibber and Lord autonomous finance, that's my biggest concern that I immediately think of. Autonomous means, so for those that understand it in the technology world, when you mean autonomous, means that all these systems can talk to each other and communicate with each other. It's full disclosure, and everything is, no matter, everything knows what each other is doing at all times. Then you put on the AI agents on top of that. And like how they said in the article, how these AI agents will help systems communicate with each other and things like that. And that sounds great and all, but here's the thing. This is what people get scared about. Tell me what the difference between what they're saying is and CBDCs. Except I know we talked about it last week. CBDCs, I get it. The federal government can't issue it, and I get that. But the problem here, though, is you now have so ultimately, let's see what they talk about the trust factor, because I'm curious how they're addressing the trust factor, because ultimately, yeah, and all of those companies you saw out there, I don't know if you pick most people off the side of the street saying, would you trust all these companies? Most people are going to say no. So
Agreed.
yeah, I'd love to know how they're going to handle the trust factor here.
Yeah, to break this down one more level here, let's talk about it. Okay, so we have had digital automated trading for years. We're talking like limit orders, that kind of stuff, basic strategies. You can even program TradingView to do this for you and build it into your brokerages. Pretty much, you can set rules and algorithms defined by the things you put in, and it's going to execute automatically for you. It's still going to pay all the required fees to do so because you got to go through a platform at some point, and it will work as you have defined it. As anyone that has done coding knows, what I just described to you is also a slight nightmare, because the second it gets outside of the parameters that you have set, it just breaks and stops working. What we're talking about here is using AI to kind of take this to the next level. What that means is that you're integrating reasoning and the ability to be flexible and adapt to the situations, but still looking at your overall strategic goal of, in this case, probably making money or minimizing risk or downside potentially. That's great. But then you have to go another layer below that. And it's like, okay, who is controlling the AI? Well, partly you, because you're the one that's putting in the parameters and giving it the overall goal and the broad question of what are we trying to do? We're trying to make money. How do you want to do it? Try going about it this way. And then, I don't know, look at news feeds, look at markets, make some analysis, some comparisons, and then just act on your own. It's like, okay, that would be great if it was just you and the AI. But In large part, as it stands right now, AI is powered by external companies that are the ones in charge of the coding, the internal programming, and also all the data centers. So, look, I know it sounds a little conspiracy theory, but at the same time, it's entirely true, which is that there is an invisible hand inside all the AI stuff that you do that is programmed and set and built by someone else that is not you. So, would it be great if I could just have ChatGPT make me money? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, how do I trust that ChatGPT is actually acting in my best interest instead of just either losing me money or just making pointless trades to not only maximize gas fees for a blockchain at this point, but also token burn for the company that's running the AI itself? The AI integration, it sounds like a cool feature, but as the article is suggesting here, it's opening a lot more questions and kind of a little bit of a Pandora's box, especially once you plug it into your wallet. What do you think? Am I overblowing this, or is that a good read?
No, I won't have it plugging into my wallet. It ain't happening. I'm not giving any type of
Me neither.
permissions or or token allocations or yeah, I'm not giving them the smart contract ability to basically do as it sees fit. It's not happening. But it'll be interesting to see how they utilize this. It's just that, well, this comes back to it. I mean, we talk about it in our memberships. We talk about ways you can protect yourselves. There's a lot of ways you can do this that you can cover. So there's many ways that you. I'm not going to get into it here, but there's a lot of things we talk about as far as security and how you need to handle stuff and how you should have various wallets performing different duties and things like that. And they shouldn't be able to access one another. There's a whole concept of security layer you need to have in place. And it starts with hard wallets, and from there, there's more to it, but there's more of a way to handle your stuff to lower your risks. And if you get exploited, at least it's in small damage control instead of being fully exploited. So there's those concepts that we talk about too, but that's not here nor there. But I guess ultimately you could try these things out, is what I'm alluding to see how they would work and function. But like you said, does the article talk about the trust factor? Do they go in and talk about like how they're going to get around the trust factor here?
Let's see. Trust is the real challenge to innovation. Agentic AI changes the risk profile of financial infrastructure because it moves AI from market intelligence to market action. A market intelligence tool may summarize liquidity conditions with incomplete or flawed analysis that can still be evaluated by a trader. But an AI agent connected to an exchange, APIs, or wallet infrastructure can create direct financial consequences. That distinction is critical. Autonomous finance does not just ask AI to identify opportunities in real time, it gives software the ability to act with authority in environments where capital, compliance obligations, operational risk, and market volatility intersect. AI capability is advancing quickly, but for trading desks, institutions, and platform operators, technical progress alone is not enough. The next bottleneck is governance, whether agentic systems can be made secure, auditable, permissionless, and resilient enough to operate inside risk frameworks. Recent industry discussions around AI agents in crypto has already started to focus on this tension, raising concerns around rogue or exploited agents, unintended transactions, authorization, liability, and regulatory treatment. Those concerns become more important as AI systems move from information assistance to autonomous execution. So, not an answer that you're looking for, but more of just explaining the problem in depth here. And I think for this one, trust. You asked about trust. Trust is this very big buzzword in crypto because part of the whole DeFi movement is being trustless, is that we trust on the system to operate because it has been verified, it has been audited, and it has been executing flawlessly the entire time. I don't know if we can say the same thing about AI. I'm just saying. So
I think it goes back to the concept here that here's the problem. We live in a world where technology is fantastic, right? A lot of things have been invented in this world and things are great, but ultimately, who controls it? How are they utilizing those tools? You know, a gun is a great tool to have, but in the wrong hands, it can be absolutely dreadful. So here's the issue: these great tools. I see when you see automation, agents acting independently and working complete, whether it's working with software or what, there's no, where are the safety guardrails? Where are the threshold limits you can set to, like, now can you have it do what it wants to do, and then it notifies you saying, hey, I want to do this, do I have your blessing? Then sure, that at least I have that acceptance there. Or am I just going to let it run rogue until it hits this next threshold? Am I going to be able to put thresholds in place? So let's say I'm saying, can you do this until this happens, or this limit of money occurs, or this how much it happens? Like, you have to have something here. You can't just have it going just rogue on its own to do what it wants. That's where you're gonna get in trouble, because anything else, it's like anything in this world, anything that's automated, it sounds great, or if it's easy to use, that's great, but also becomes easy for a security exploit, or manipulating the systems. There's all these threats here, because for every AI bots or agents getting put in place, you don't think there's hackers out there thinking the same thing of how to exploit this? These big
Oh yeah.
companies, it's kind of like the concept that just irritates everybody. You have companies out there who, you always get these letters, oh, your data's been compromised, we've had a data breach. Right? How many of us have had that? Good. Can I sue that company now because the fact they've had an exploit? Potentially. But what I'm saying is, companies are always willing to promise you the moon and the stars, but when something goes wrong, oh, sorry, our bad. You know, it's where I'm rambling on here is, I would not trust anything until I knew first of all, until I truly understand the system, how it's operating, and where are my where are my rails, and where are my thresholds where I can put these things in place to know that it won't go too far without me stepping in and stopping it. That's the big issue here. It's great to have these things to run, but I think the other thing is, people would need to, like, walk through this to understand the system and the process that's in place before they can automate it, to let it start running wild. And I think, unfortunately, with marketing out there nowadays, you're going to have marketing out there that's going to be pushing this stuff and really saying how great this stuff is. Just like all these meme coins on Solana, when it comes down to it, you lose a ton of money. So I don't know. It's something to be really concerned about.
That's true. I know we're having this discussion talking about kind of like the future. It's heavily implied, at least. But the truth is that these kind of projects are already live. Like, there's a handful of them. I got a few here just to pull up for you. In fact, one of the a bit of a darling token to some people, the Virtuals protocol, it is pretty much an AI agent blockchain infrastructure. There's even some open source stuff. This is Eliza OS agented operating system. It has blockchain integrations. And then also platforms like this one, Banker. This one even helps you launch tokens, if you will. They have full on white papers talking about all this kind of stuff where you can actually, like, have your wallet. It'll launch a token. It'll collect trading fees to go back to the wallet, pay for the AI usage, and then ultimately allow you to do all the other stuff that you want to. So this stuff is live. It's happening now, whether we like it or not. But at the same time, for, I guess you call it the old heads in crypto, even though we're still a very, very new sector, I think personally, any sort of AI agent use automatically violates the number one rule of DeFi security, which is that your seed phrase is between yourself and God. And in this case, you've now given it to Claude or ChatGPT, because if they're making wallet transactions, verified signature transactions, guess what it has? It has your seed phrase effectively. And now, again, like you mentioned, all those emails. Oh no, we had a data breach. Sorry about that. It's like, oh, you data breached my seed phrases, the one thing I care about the most in the world. It's like, it violates that for me. So, not to just lay down the band hammer and the iron fist of the law and be like, nope, out forever. If you want to take a more nuanced approach, I think that the way you do this through risk analysis is you look at potential gains versus potential risk. And I think that the potential risk category is still very, very high. Granted, the probability of the event of your actual information getting leaked in one of these things is relatively low. I'm not going to say it's like near zero, because we've seen that these things happen. Data breaches do happen. And if you're using AI on a system that is not controlled by you, last I checked, I'm not running Odysseus on a local server in my house, and I don't think anyone else watching is currently. It means that it's going through ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. So it means that in order to offset that risk, the gain from using the AI as opposed to just using crypto on my own has to be pretty massive, to be honest. Because at the same time, that data leak probability is still low, but impact is to the roof. It is dang near 100% impact. So as a result of that, even if you call it a 10% chance of having your data leaked and your seed phrase going out there, it means that to balance that risk portfolio, the gains from AI would have to be basically 10x what you can get on your own. And I just don't know if it's there.
Yeah, you definitely need an abstract wallet basically to do that if you're going to play around with it with a small amount of money to test it out first, certainly. But to go back, to me, it's just very similar to how everybody has a smartphone and you have apps constantly popping up. We're going to see a bunch of apps popping up with crypto and things like that. That's going to start really flourishing. And like you said, you're already starting to see them pop up, and it's going to speed up a lot, especially now with the advancements of AI and how AI can now do a lot of the overhead development for you that you used to take a team to do. Now you can have it, basically build things out for you much quicker and faster. So you're going to see this stuff come to fruition a lot quicker. But once again, let's say these things are getting built and then they're getting put on a network. Who's verifying and testing and doing proper testing and vulnerability testing on these things before they launch on it? Like, who's doing that? It's kind of like, with Apple, at least they would test their apps and it has to go through some type of protocol checks and vulnerability scans, and that checking poor code, infrastructure vulnerabilities, things that it's already captured, scans it, and it has to get a passing score before it can actually move on to the app store. And by the way, like Android used to have much lower, much lower criteria when it first launched, leaving a lot of problems. So, like I said, these things are cool, but who's testing and validating? I'm sure they're going to come out. There's some certification company, that's doing this. FYI, that would be a company that can make a lot of money. By the way, just the ones that are doing certification checks and all this stuff. So
That's true. Oh gosh, you said something pretty key at the beginning there, which is that based on the risk analysis I gave you, this kind of stuff seems to only be pretty much like the sacrificial wallets, things that if they go to absolute zero immediately, you're okay with losing because you thought it was worth the test or the possibility. When things go in that category, that is what I like to call the novelty category. That is effectively the amount of money that you're willing to buy for a beer for the night. That is stuff where it's like, this is not serious investment. And I think that AI right now is positioned as trying to do serious things and like seriously take over the world at some point. But when it comes to the blockchain perspective, it's just not there. Y- Until you clear this hurdle, and trust is the hurdle, because trust is the hurdle we've been trying to clear in crypto the entire time. Blockchain certificates, the which transaction gets processed, is it first in or highest gas fee, that kind of stuff. The trust has been there the entire time. And even like we've talked about on some of the other stuff, it'd be cool if you could verify users on a network, but then you turn it into WorldCoin where you start scanning people's retinas and people are worrying about where their retinal scans end up. It's just, it feels like this never ending problem. And until that gets solved, unfortunately, I think AI goes right in this category with it.
yeah, it does. Um, And it's funny because crypto was created to get rid of the middleman and, like you said, a trustless system and all that stuff. And now here we are. It's being hijacked by ETFs, big corporations, freezing people's accounts, like everything that crypto was created for, not to be created. This is not what it was intended for. But I can see why the institutions love the technology because it fixes a lot of their underlying problems. So they love that, but they don't. But let's be clear here. They want to still have control of everything. That has to be their case. They're not going to just hand over the keys, and they want to capitalize on everything. And that's just it. So, and then the world keeps going around. That's basically where we are. So, me
Sure
personally,
does.
yes, it'd be something to be interesting to see what they come up with and what they're going to solve. There's going to be some incredible things that are going to be created out of this
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But once again, it, the thing that's always concerning is with anything, like I always say, it's great to see these things, but who has the control over them? Is there a kill switch? Is there, can they shut these things off? And if that's the case, then no, I'm not interested. And unfortunately, most people, like when crypto becomes mainstream, people, and I mean mainstream, meaning that
Daily use.
everything you do in your life is going through transactionals, through stable coins, and that's becoming the norm. And everything's using your phone to do payment systems, but you're thinking like, oh, it's the same thing as PayPal or whatever, but you're not seeing the underlying technology that's really happening behind the scenes. Like for the average user out there, they're not going to see the technology, but because they're not going to really understand it, but they're going to just think this is how it's always been when it really hasn't been this way. It's not just using cash, because people have been almost everyone's been more like programmed to understand that you don't really hold paper cash. Everything's digital. So if you have a digital stablecoin versus a digital dollar, does it really make a difference to you? Probably not. So in that case, they're not going to really. What I'm saying is you're going to see the evolution of this to where you're going to see some really cool systems and things that get built out. I'm thinking more things that took a lot of time. Like we needed to have GPS in place, and then we needed to have networks in place, and then payment systems in place in order to have a product like Uber. You need to have all those things in place before that could be created, essentially. So you start combining technologies to create these new things that will be really fascinating to see. And I think with AI and with the cryptography, I mean, with not just cryptography, with the security layer, but I'm leaning more towards tokenization. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of solutions and products people are going to come out with. That's going to be fascinating, but we will see. But we're going to need regulation to get out of the way before we can start seeing that.
Yeah, regulation's a big one. I think the technology is still evolving, like you said. Even just base cryptography still has a long way to go, and I think people are still trying to figure out these problems, and these problems are hard and complex. So it's not like we're getting innovation every day, but when we do, it kind of feels like big jumps in the moment. So I have faith we'll come up with something, we'll develop something, but at the same time, as it stands right now, AI is great for making videos and being a fake Instagram influencer, but not giving it my wallet. That's for dang sure.
All right, what else we got to talk about? What else we got? Got price action. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, we can hit price action real quick. Alrighty, I teased you guys the Solana chart earlier. Let's talk about Bitcoin. The big one in the market currently, not 4 hour, daily. There we go. Okay, currently sitting about 60,000, up from what is apparently a new cycle low as of the last 24 hours, going all the way down to 57, high 57,000. So, this is kind of bad news, even more bad news for the cycle. We're probably having a down cycle. That's what I'm looking at on this one. I expect the finishing of the cycle to be somewhere around that 55. If we get real crazy, we could even get down to like the 52 range to finish out this cycle. As it stands, we've kind of flatlined for the last 7 days, kind of sitting right at this like 60,000 level and then kind of bouncing below it pretty much. But we have not gone to retest that 20-day moving average yet. And we're not even thinking about the upper ones. And the good news here is that you could argue that your 50 is approaching your 20-day. Previously, the last time we spoke, the 20-day was still moving away from the 50, indicating an ongoing trend. Now that we're starting to see the moving averages converge, this shows that we could have a potential trend reversal in the very, very short term, is what I'm talking about here. So, honestly, next few days, we could try to go retest that 20-day moving average. And depending on how that goes, it means that we might have some time in those higher, like 62, maybe even getting all the way up there to 65 and getting crazy and stuff, and maybe even retesting that 50-day moving average. But overall, the markets right now, dead as a brick, baby. These things are. Oh, yeah. Price action is not great in the short term, but again, it all depends on what your thinking is. If you're talking short term, yeah, it kind of sucks. If you're looking longer term, prices might be a little juicy for you. But that's up to you
Question on that.
strategy to figure out. Hit me.
Question on that for you. Why are you picking those levels? I know you talked about 55 last week, but why 55, 52? Like what are you seeing as those being potentially the next lows in this cycle?
55 is a big psychological number. And then also 55 has some confluence back here. This is the summer of 2024 after the ETF pump. We have some confluence for lows around
Gotcha.
this level. Granted, we hadn't really touched that ever since we got back above it and started going towards that the election pump. But there's old data in that range, big psychological level. One of the Fibonacci levels also lines up with it. So that's what I'm looking at. 50,500, that also goes back to the lows, the absolute lows of the 2024 summer. And again, that 50K number, I think, is also going to be another big psychological level. And then 48 is my next big Fibonacci level. So those are the reasons I'm looking at those. And if you remember some of the older shows, I was saying that based on previous bear market lows and the flattening of the curve and also the diminished returns of the last cycle, I think that 50,500 and 48,000, that could be our cycle low for the entirety of the bear market. With that being said, as it stands right now, those predictions are looking a little more shaky as we just continue to careen ever closer to those levels. Because I'm talking like I was expecting that for November of 2026, and if we're already getting close and approaching it in the beginning of July, well, my crystal ball might need to get calibrated again. But at the same time, I'm looking at psychological levels, baseline levels, our 50-week moving average, our 200-week moving average, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm looking at. A lot of the indicators are pointing towards this. If you want to get real crazy, people are talking about sub 40K. Personally, I think just based on the size of the market and the level of players in there, if they see it get to 50,000 or anything below that, they're going to be scooping up aggressively. And that's what we've seen on all of these moves down, especially this last one when we hit 60K. Massive buy up, not buying opportunity. People acted on it. And that's where we saw the volume come in. And again, similar story, but smaller when we drop down to 60K again. So that kind of stuff tells me why I've set these levels at and why I think that they have legitimacy and that they have the potential to actually hold as a market bottom.
Yeah, one thing I would notice is like, so Ethereum's been holding up a little bit better here. It's actually double bottoming right now. It's
Yes,
got a
sir.
double bottom. Now it could certainly break down. I'm not saying this is the bottom, but it could definitely break down. But it's definitely the ETH to BTC ratio is showing some resilience. But then again, we saw some resilience back in Q2 and Q uh, bleeding into Q3 a little of this year. We saw the ETH to BTC ratio hold up, which you see it there. So it's not to say that it can't have a next leg down. It's just that I think things are starting to really get really extended. I mean, we're beyond extended. It just comes down to, I don't know. But the one thing that I noticed, we posted some things in our personal chats about some really cool charts that were coming out there saying basically, the best way to put it is we are at extreme levels of how much Bitcoin coins that are underwater right now, like the amount of volume, and we're at levels where we haven't seen since the ultimate bottoms in Bitcoin. So we are definitely, I'm not saying it's necessary, any indicator is going to be one, but now you can also make the argument, well, it doesn't mean anything.
Indicators are broken.
Well, indicators are broken, but we could also go a lot lower because let's think about it. ETFs are holding a bunch of these coins, right? They could start to unload them and they're causing more selling pressure. It's totally valid. But, and the reason, why would they be selling down here? It's so long. Well, here's the reason why you're going to have institutions selling. This might be the first time that people in the TradFi had gotten into it through these ETFs. They're not used to this volatility. They freak out when they see, like, people yesterday, it was kind of cute actually. People are freaking out about Circle dropping 17% in a day, and it's like in crypto, it's like you're just kind of laughing, like like what? That's getting crushed? No, that's not getting crushed. Getting crushed is 60, 70 down, like that's getting crushed, Yep. So, but put that aside, we're still everything. I look at it like this: can things get cheaper? Things can get cheaper. I'm just dollar cost and average in. I keep adding. I'm adding, and I'm going to keep doing that. If wants to keep going, I'm going to lower it. Now, if, like I said, like last week, I said if we could get that little bump up, and if we got a little bit of a rally, I would take something off to build dry powder. So if we have the next leg down, I could reposition it back down again to always keep working on that dollar cost average. Because right now, that's the name of the game right now. If you're long term, you want to get your dollar cost average lower. And the way to do that is putting on new powder or unwinding certain positions you put on as the market comes up to try to put them down lower to ultimately find that ultimate bottom. Or the people who are on the sidelines starting to put in positions now. What you're doing is you just want to get a really nice dollar cost average at your entry points. So that when this thing starts to turn, you're looking great. Like you've got nothing but time because you've got such a pretty good overall dollar cost price point is what you're trying to do here. And that's it. It's the name of the game. Narratives have not changed. The only narrative that seems to hold up really well is crypto market is highly manipulated. That's the one thing that is clearly evident, and that's going to be evident because TradFi is here to stay, unfortunately. So you've got to weather the storm.
Yeah, double-sided blade. TradFi is increased market share. Good. More money coming in. Yeah, I can pump it. At the same time, though, all the shenanigans and messing about that we've seen, yeah, it's kind of a personal determination at that point. It's like if it's worth it or not. But yeah, look, overall, like I think you nailed it on the head. This Does this last week change anything in the overall market's narrative sentiments? Nope, not really. Kind of just more of the same, less good news that we were possibly hoping for, just confirming that it didn't happen. And then as the overall 4-year cycle theory, it's getting stronger every day that we don't see anything else besides it happen. And if we get a
Well,
confirmation at 4 years for cycle low, that's going to be
well,
another big boon for it.
well. Here's my other concern.
Hit me.
Let's say everybody says, "Hey, the 4-year cycle is supposed to be coming in towards the end of this year." What happens? Okay, there's the bottom, and we start going down more. So now it's like the
That would
4-year
freak
cycle.
people out. All
It's going to
oh
freak
yeah,
a lot of people out because there's now you have no reflection point. You have nothing to gauge where an entry point should happen, where an exit point could happen. Like you got to go back to zero, and I feel like we're already there. Now, are we going down? Yes, we're going down. What happens if we bottom at 50? Everyone's saying 40 or this. I think the bottom price is irrelevant right now for the 4-year cycle. It's a timing thing. So are we going to get the bottom in Q4? If we don't get a bottom in Q4, or the bottom's put in before Q4, that starts to put a wrench in everything. That's really what I think everyone's looking at.
hear me out. I think an early bottom actually isn't nearly as bad. One of the things that we saw from Ethereum last cycle is that it bottomed in like March of 2022 as opposed to December. So other coins can behave differently. Everything does not follow Bitcoin to the T, but in general, if Bitcoin was to start do some odd things when it comes to the timing, that would throw people through a loop. I think a late bottom would throw people through way more of a loop than an early bottom because
Mm-hmm.
what's the downside? It's like, oh no, we had an early bottom. I was expecting better prices to get
Right.
in. Instead, I just have to rely on my DCAs and try to ship
Mm-hmm.
the boat now, as opposed to it's like, oh, I fired everything I had and it's still going down. It's like, oh, something might be broken.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing will probably start to pop up, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Now here's another wrench on the thing. What happens if we bottom and the Ethereum and altcoins leads us out instead of Bitcoin? It's always been Bitcoin. It's always been Bitcoin that we rotate in, and that's how it works. But there never was a rotation. Yes, you had Solana, you had XRP. Yeah, you had some pockets here and there, but you never had a rotation in alt season. It never happened. So is it potential that people can move into where the value is? Because some of the stuff is so ridiculously cheap. Unlike Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not cheap. Yes, I get it relative to price also. I get it. I understand all that. Yes, I understand. But what I'm getting at is Ethereum never moved. Solana's been bludgeoned. Yeah, it had a good run, but it's been bludgeoned. So everything's been bludgeoned. And well, Tron, there's some outliers that haven't been. They're doing really well, like Tron. Tron's doing very well. But I'm saying ultimately we never had the whole theory that money trickles down from Bitcoin down to Ethereum, down to the macro or the large cap, all coins, mid cap, and then low cap, then all shit coins essentially. But that never happened. You got a couple little quick pockets, and that was it. It was very short lived. Nothing really happened. So, is it potential that, and if you think about it, everything's moving towards stable coins, right?
Yep.
Everything's moving toward. I know people throw the term around there, a super cycle, stable coins. That's the term that keeps getting thrown around here. Okay, well, that's happening. You're seeing the growth in stable coins. There ain't no stable coins on Bitcoin. There isn't stable coins on Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin, man. That's it. So
One and only.
who's got all the stable coins? Well, Ethereum's got the lion's share. Now you got potentially Solana. You're gonna have some other ones. So who's to say you don't get an altcoin rally or before Bitcoin? I don't know. It's something that would definitely throw another wrench out there as far as a 4-year cycle.
I guess to unpack that idea a little bit more, the assumptions that we work off of have been that liquidity bonding, aka Hart's law, has been one of the big factors for altcoin seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, I think there's a psychological factor of investors, which is that when crypto heats up, they, especially like longtime crypto folks, they know that okay, Bitcoin price going up, other things can go up more. It might not have gone up yet. I'm going to get into that. Because of that, en masse, you can see adoption of individual tokens that will actually pump the price pretty hard. I don't know if you can have altcoins go up initially faster than Bitcoin does. There will still be some liquidity bonding, so Bitcoin will still rise. But if altcoins are going up faster than Bitcoin is, I think that that indicates that money is going into the altcoins specifically. And because not all of those are tied to each other, but the vast majority of things are tied to Bitcoin, it doesn't stand to reason as much as the inverse, which is that Bitcoin goes up and it drags everything else up. I don't know if smaller cap coins can drag up Bitcoin. If that is the case that we see on the charts, I think it's more of an indication, in my opinion, that people are investing very specifically and very heavily in those individual tokens. Because keep in mind, we're at a point now where we've never had more tokens than we do now. And it's by a factor of over 10 or 100 at this point. So we could move into a market where you see individual winners really outperform Bitcoin as maybe
Right.
even mass adoption or TradFi really goes heavy into one of those specific tokens. But as far as an overall altcoin season happening before Bitcoin,
All right, throw
I don't
that
know.
out. Throw that out. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying you could see some of the
Oh yeah, no,
more
you're correct. You could.
established stable coins or
Oh yeah.
we'll say altcoins moving quick before Bitcoin could. And if you also look at Bitcoin dominance, that chart's rolling. That's rolling over. It's not looking like it's holding. Some people will say, oh, it's going sideways and it could go up. Here's the thing. Bitcoin dominance, I just feel like everybody has become very complacent. Everybody in Bitcoin has been thinking like this can't go over. That looks like a sideways action. It looks like it wants to roll over.
That is definitely some sideways consolidation right there. This is the weekly chart, by the way.
Yeah, and this is the
So
market. Yeah, so Bitcoin dominance. Is it gonna hold up or is she gonna roll over? And we're gonna start to see money flow more into altcoins instead of Bitcoin. That's what people are looking at closely. And here's the thing too. This is happening. Does this normally line up? And I'm looking at the date, the chart here. Yeah, you see how we never had Bitcoin dominance go down? Bitcoin just kept going up the entire cycle, never really going down ever. So that completely disrupted and broke a lot of that cycle that we normally had in the past. So this is at its high. This is near its high of the Bitcoin dominant. This now can drop. People are chasing value. And you throw in the fact that you got the Michael Saylor bugaboo floating around narrative. It's another reason why maybe I don't want to be in Bitcoin. Maybe I want to be in other coins that are going to start, capturing smart contracts and stable coins. So that's why I'm looking at, that's another wrench that could be thrown into everything. I don't think it's going to go to order. Bitcoin's just going to start pumping like we've always thought, then it's going to rotate into others. It didn't happen last time. So why is it going to happen this time?
that's true. All the irregularity and the rule breaking of last cycle, I think is genuinely called into question a lot of pretty much everything, which is that we were operating under assumptions based on trends and patterns that we have observed previously. We have now broken out of those patterns and trends. And what's to say that we don't keep doing that? Because I think that now it's happened once, the probability of it happening again is much higher.
Yep, it's
I'm
going to
gonna
be
have to
interesting
think on this one.
times. That's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
have to
saying,
think on
though.
this one.
Right? You got Bitcoin dominance near its all-time high, and yet here we are, supposedly in the downslide of a 4-year cycle. Well, then why is Bitcoin dominance so high? Why?
Well,
Everything just seems out of whack? Yet we never had an altcoin season. So I'm just saying, trends and things that have happened in the past are definitely already breaking down.
they definitely are. To
So
what
yeah. So the first thing is, okay, when is the bottom going to happen for Bitcoin and other altcoins? When's the bottom going to be found? And are we going to go into the next cycle? I personally think the cycle, and you can make a strong case that people who did the 4-year cycle, yeah, it worked out well for you. Just I don't know if it just started going down because of the 4-year cycle. I think there's other factors involved. And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep pointing to TradFi.
it's all their fault. Dang it. That's fair. Tell you what, this is something juicy to chew on. And I know I'm going to be thinking about it and I'm going to post some of my thoughts inside of our private Telegram, which, by the way, if you want to hear about that, you can join that private Telegram by heading on over to walktheblockndf.com and finding our membership tab. And inside of there, you can find the sign up for it for a small monthly fee. You get private access to our Telegram and all the great things inside of it, including the stream and video archive. But obviously the ongoing and latest and greatest inside of our chat where we talk about the news, all of our personal research, ideas, theories, even do a little bit of troubleshooting and help for people that are having issues with crypto wallets and stuff. Because yes, as we pointed out with Solana, things break. They're not entirely stable 100% of the time. Thank you, Solana. It's all Solana's fault. That's unjust. But yeah, that is where you can find all that stuff. All the private Telegram streams that we do for our members inside of there, the archive for it, the ongoing chat, research, Q&A, whatever you want. If you want it, it's inside of there. Again, head on over to walktheblockndf.com, find the membership tab. That's where you can find it. Around these parts, we like to say the waters get rough, so don't sail through them alone. Come join us as we navigate digital finance together. Private mentorship, exclusive live streams, Q&A. Go from beginner to intermediate to expert with us. We all work together. We can all win together.
And just to put that out there, so we do all our stuff in Telegram, and we do work with everybody. I mean, our membership is pretty darn cheap, and we're not promising the world. We're not trying to sit there and sell you scams and things going on. What we're trying to do is teach you in the crypto world how things are working. We dive much more into this kind of stuff, and not just that, but also research into various projects that we think are going to be solid projects. Bounce a bunch of ideas off us. Talk about other things like how do you self-custodiate your wallets? How do you have different wallets for which activities you're trying to do? Tons of things. Tech support, whatever you guys are running into, it's what we're there for. We do try to put out stuff and whatever the members need. We're basically there at your fingertips to try to help you and guide you. And typically when you get in there, if someone's asking that question, the same people are going to have the same question. So what's great about it is we capture it, we record it, and then it gets put out there. And then if anybody's asking about it, we just pin the link to the last thread in there so people can reference it. So the archive keeps building. So the knowledge base keeps building. And like I said, with crypto, everything's moving quickly and fast. So staying on top of it all it's challenging because you'll realize a lot of people don't even have to have the basic fundamentals. Like going to a central exchange, just setting up a central exchange and going there and how to do that. Some people don't know how to do that. And that's the easiest entry point. You get into DeFi and hard wallets. Then you're trying to get in more deeper in. So how deep do you want to go into the crypto industry? It's really how much you want to do. So that's all. So
very true.
All right. Yeah, man.
All right. Before we
that
get
was a
out of
pretty
here,
good wrap up.
Yeah, I like it. Any final thoughts on the news stories?
No, I'm going to be curious to see what kind of products are going to come out. There's going to be a lot of new cool products coming out. I think the one thing I'm going to be watching is the OUSD. I'm curious because I want to know more about what they're saying, but I want to, here I put it. People can talk all this stuff, but actions, I'll look at what people's actions are. I'm going to be
curious. Show me the code, show me the white paper.
Yeah, I'm curious what the companies are going to be trying to do, what they're trying to collaborate. The thing they're calling interoperability, that means systems and these companies might be all talking together. What are y'all sharing? What are you talking about? Like, what exactly is going on here? So there's going to be a lot to understand with that piece of the puzzle. And then, of course, what is Circle and Tether? What are they saying about this? And the other stable coins that are out there on these other networks that are being held by those institutions. What are they saying about this? So there's going to be a lot to unwind on this one. That was definitely a nice bombshell that dropped yesterday, though. But like I said, stable coins are the fastest growing real world asset by far.
Oh yeah.
People and most people don't even understand that. We talk about it all the time, but like USD stablecoin is being used to buy US Treasury debts, AAK US bonds. Like what? Yeah, most people don't even have a clue that's going on. That stable coins are being used to buy US bonds. I mean, so that's propping up. And there was a point I didn't want to go. We'll talk about it later on, maybe in Telegram, but I was curious to know what your thoughts were on the Treasury's debt balance sheet is going down. Is it because they're moving their debt off the sheets into stable coins and yet they can now show that that's a write-off or it's no longer under their balance sheet? I don't know, something to talk about. It's pretty interesting, but we can talk about that later.
Oh, the good old accountant magic tricks. Find out what their assistant is doing behind the scenes.
Right.
We'll definitely talk about that. With that being said, though, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope you had a fantastic time. And by the way, we would greatly appreciate it if you do the YouTube pleasantries, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Helps us out, helps us know what you like to see, what you don't like to see, so we can hopefully avoid that, and also keep the show going the best that we possibly can. Again, thank you for tuning in on the slightly shifted Wednesday night here. We're going to be seeing how the schedule looks going forward. But outside of that, we will catch you guys next week, either Wednesday or Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can find the latest and greatest inside the private Telegram, as always, for announcements. But outside of that, we'll catch you guys next week. We'll keep an eye on what's going on. And yeah, let's hope it all doesn't go to zero. But yeah, that's That's its own thing entirely. Alrighty. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, good night. Have a good one. Happy 4th of July. Everyone's coming back with the same amount of fingers on their hands. Hear me out. I like playing with fireworks too, but I need all 10 of these bad boys. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Good night.